Hey everyone, Jesse Green here, your friend and colleague. Welcome back to the Savvy Dentist podcast. Today, I want to have a conversation with you about what I believe is perhaps the greatest force multiplier in business. As we grow and scale practices, often our attention goes to things like our marketing strategies, our sales conversion, team development, so on. But what I really believe is the greatest force multiplier of all and the greatest determinant of your success, not just in business, but in life, is your own psychology, it's your own mindset. And it's about understanding yourself and how to get the most out of yourself. One of the things that breaks my heart is seeing people come through our conversations that we have with so many different practice owners, believing that they can't move forward. They're stuck, they've plateaued, and they feel like there's no room for growth or they just can't do it. And so they quietly quit. And one of the things I want to share with you is as long as you can grow individually, then your business will grow. Because here's the thing. Business growth, those external signs of growth, whether it's your KPIs, your metrics of any kind, whether it's money, time, or anything else, are a result of internal or personal growth. So before you can have that business growth, before you can see the success in your practice, you've got to be able to understand that personal growth needs to occur first. So as long as we can grow individually, then there's always hope to grow our practice. The greatest thing I really struggle with is seeing people give up on their dreams, seeing people think that they're unachievable and quietly accepting that. And so I want to challenge you today. If you're sitting there thinking that this is as good as it gets and this is all I'm capable of, I want to encourage you to dig a little deeper. I want to encourage you to look a little further inward and understand that you have so much potential that you're yet to tap into. And so through my work, I get the wonderful opportunity to travel around the world, meet terrific people, whether it's in business or any other endeavor, and understand how some people are able to outperform the rest. What are those things that they do that allow them to achieve success in the arts, in business, of course, or indeed sports or anything else of that nature? And it's a really interesting thing because there's so many common threads, there's so many overlapping similarities that are directly applicable to practice ownership. And so the first thing is I want to make sure that you're really clear on your goals, really clear about thinking about what does the practice of my dreams look like? If I knew I couldn't fail, what would I actually want? And when I talk to those people who have quietly quit on their dreams, they start talking as though, that was never what I really wanted anyway. And it's easier to pretend that I didn't want that than to actually admit that I'm scared or I gave up or whatever it happens to be. And so if you're sitting there thinking, actually, I really would like this thing, then go for it. But understand that there is a price to pay, and that price comes in the form of personal growth, personal development, and then you will see the rewards of your business growing and developing, scaling, and all those other things that come with it. So in this episode, I want to share with you a handful of traits that I've noticed as common themes across gazillions of people we've spoken to. Of course, they are common traits in the high-performing dental practices that we work with, and they're certainly common traits that we see high performers in lots of different endeavors embrace and embody. So the first quality I really want to talk about is courage. And if you're a business owner and you're already in the game, I want to salute you because if you're a dental practice owner, you've either put up your own savings or you've taken on a loan to start or to buy a practice. So you've got capital on the line. So again, well done for getting into the game. It takes a lot to back yourself in, and you've done more than most already. And getting into the game is really important, but staying in the game is just as important. And how do you move forward when you have those inevitable days where things don't go to plan? And I want to tell you that every single business owner, doesn't matter if you're a dentist or otherwise, has had days where things don't go to plan. The most successful businesses have come close to either losing something, some have come close to going out of business altogether, some have bounced back. Apple's legendary comeback comes to mind, Nike's legendary comeback comes to mind. All of those other businesses, like yours and like mine, we have good days and we have bad days. And one of the things I'm really fond of, there's a great video on YouTube by Tom Hanks. He's talking to a bunch of other actors, and he says to these different actors sitting around the table, I think Adam Sandler was there, I want to say Robert De Niro was there, a couple of others as well. And he talks about the phrase, this too shall pass. And he's talking about when things are tough and you can't get an acting job, this too shall pass. And they all nod and agree. And when you film bombs and you're panned by the critics, this too shall pass. But he goes on to say, and when you're on top of the world and everything's seeming rosy, this too shall pass. And the reason I bring that up is because that's the natural ebb and flow of businesses. And what the mistake that many people have is, or the mistake many people make, is they think that these temporary circumstances are permanent. I'm either permanently on top or I'm permanently getting beaten up. That's not true. We've just got to keep moving forward, because if you keep walking, you will get the progress that you're seeking. But it takes courage to keep walking. It takes courage to keep moving forward, particularly when things aren't going well. And of course, one of the things I'm really fond of is reading and studying these wonderful people. And as I'm often telling you, is I have the great privilege to go around the world and talk to people and understand and unpack what works and what doesn't work. And in that journey, I'm also exposed to some of the great writing of the world. And there's a particular passage I want to share with you. It's actually a passage that's very near and dear to my heart. I discovered it, I want to say 30 plus years ago now, quite a while. And it's actually at the very heart of the culture of the Practice Max coaching program that we run. And it's a piece of writing by Theodore Roosevelt, and it's called The Man in the Arena. I'll take a moment to read it for you now. So here we go. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done the better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Now, I love that quote. And the reason I love that quote is it reminds me that if you're going to be in the arena, if you're going to be out there having a go, you're going to have bad days. You're going to taste failure. You're going to taste defeat. But you know what? The beauty of that quote is to let you know that's normal. It's not permanent. It's not fatal. If you're in the arena and you're moving forward and you're doing the right things and you're keeping focused on those activities that you know are the right activities, you will get up and you will swing again and you'll be able to move forward towards your goals. And so I really want to encourage you to not just have the courage to get in the arena, but have the courage to keep moving forward. And what that takes is sometimes a bit of internal fortitude. Sometimes it requires a support network who are in the arena with you, the people who are in that group who, if you're face down on the dust, they're going to be the ones that reach down and pull you up and say, come on, let's keep moving forward. So also surround yourself with great people. So the second quality I really want to share with you is closely related to the first, and that is persistence. And persistence, I think, is really important. The ability to keep pressing forward, the ability to kind of roll your sleeves up, grit your teeth, and keep moving on. My dad likes to use the expression, Jess, you got to have a bit of mongrel about you. In other words, you got to be able to keep moving forward. You got to be able to understand that the people who win are not always the most talented. It's really interesting. My daughter is a gymnast, and some years ago, when she was a younger gymnast, one of the fathers of her, I suppose her teammate, was a very successful gymnast in his own right, but he quit. And he was talking about another particular gymnast, a guy called Brendan Dowrick, who represented Australia at the highest level and going on to do really well. And he said, I used to be better than him. I could outperform him. I could do this. I could do that better than Brendan. And I remember my daughter Maisie saying to me, but, what a great gymnast he must have been. I said, yeah, he was obviously a terrific gymnast, but he quit. And the thing about that is, winners never quit and quitters never win. And so the ability to keep moving forward and keep holding that dream, that vision of your own tightly in your mind and keep moving forward, the ability to take the knocks is really important. And again, I'm going to give you another quote in a minute because, again, it's one of my favorites. And it's from another American president called Calvin Coolidge. And this particular quote is really about persistence being omnipotent. And I think it's a really important quote because what it says is, well, in fact, I'll just read it to you and then you can understand what it says. Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. The slogan, press on, has solved and always will solve the problems of the human race. So I really like that quote as well. I promise you that's the last quote for this episode. But I think those two quotes, the man in the arena and persistence being omnipotent, are really important quotes because it really does set you up for success. You got to have the courage to get in the arena and to stay in the arena, and it's going to take some persistence along the way. Angela Duckworth, in her famous book, Grit, talks about the importance of being able to persist through difficulty. And she decided or determined in her research that was perhaps one of the most common traits of successful people. And again, their ability to take a bit of a beating and to keep moving forward. So one of the things I've always found in my own life is that I'm definitely not the most talented. I'm definitely not the smartest. I'm definitely not better in any category. What I have always had, though, is stamina and grit. And so any success I've enjoyed has just been through sheer doggedness, sheer mongrel, as my dad would say. And so I think it's a really important quality to have. You've got to be able to take those hits and keep moving forward. Like Rocky says in all his movies, you got to take the hits and keep moving forward. So that's the second quality. The first one being courage, the second one being persistence. So the third trait of high performers is that of responsibility. Now, in some cases, you might hear the word ownership used. I'm going to use those two words interchangeably. So if I use either word, for me, they mean the same. Now, one of the things I want to share with you is that the most successful people in the world I know, absolutely fully accountable, fully responsible, taking full ownership of their own situation. And that's really what we call adulting. And in life, we talk about that in lots of different ways. But in business, sometimes we see people reverting to a more childlike behavior. It's easy to blame other people. It's easy to blame the economy. It's easy to blame circumstances, the government, the corporates, the health funds, the whoever else. It's easy to blame that. And the reason I think that people get stuck in that, especially in different community Facebook groups and so on, and I don't want to bag them out too much, but sometimes it's easy to blame someone else than to face the reality of our own failings. Every single one of us have done that. Every single one of us has fallen into the trap of wanting to blame someone or make excuses. But the reality is that we need to be responsible for our own outcomes. And the people who succeed are those who take that responsibility very seriously. Now, in various community groups, what we see is people blaming others. And when you see other people blaming others, it gives us comfort because you realize it's not just me. I don't need to kind of face up to the deficiencies in my own business. I don't need to face up to my own failings. I don't need to face up to any shortcomings that I might have had or experienced. I can just blame it externally. But the reality is this, is as long as you keep blaming external circumstances, you're always going to be at the effect of other people. I really believe that as business owners, we get to create our own economy. I believe that if it's to be, it's up to me. I really believe that if we want to create our dreams, we can create our dreams, but it's going to require consistency and dedication and that personal responsibility I'm talking about. So rather than getting into the let's point the finger, let's blame other people, let's kind of hang out with other people who blame other people and find ourselves into a bit of a, well, can I call it a pity party? We need to step out of that environment. That kind of environment is really toxic. That type of environment robs you of your dreams. It might give you a warm, comforting blanket of mediocrity, but it's not going to help you achieve your dreams. And so the people that I know that succeed in any form of endeavor, sports, business, so on, they all reject that blanket of mediocrity. They all reject that environment where it's okay to blame other people. They all firstly examine, what could I have done differently? What could I have done better? Where did I go well? Where do I need to improve? Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying external factors aren't a factor, but they're not the factor. The factor is us. And the most successful people I know recognize and understand that. And I want you to understand this. Your economic future is in your hands. It's easy, as I said, to blame other people. But the reality is, if you want to create a future for yourself, you can absolutely do that. But you just got to take responsibility for it. You got to take responsibility for the good things, but you've got to take responsibility for the not so good things as well. So being able to first examine yourself internally before looking externally, I think is one of the key traits that I noticed that successful people have in spades. Okay, so number 4, I've kind of alluded to this already, is it's about peer group. You've all heard the expression that we're the average of the 5 people we hang around the most, right? And so again, choose those 5 people really carefully. If you're surrounding yourself by people who think negatively, who want to blame other people, who don't aspire to much, then you're going to fall into that way of thinking too. One of the things that as parents, we always encourage our kids to do is to hang around the smart kids at school, hang around the smarter kids, the ambitious kids, the good kids, because we understand that environment dictates performance. And that's a really important thing to understand, is your performance will absolutely be dictated by the environment that you place yourself in. So choose that environment deliberately, choose that environment consciously. Now, one of the things we've done in Practice Max is to curate an environment of high performers. Now, you don't have to come into our environment. That's fine. Find an environment of your own. That's totally cool. But whatever you do, choose the people you hang around very deliberately. And sometimes that may mean letting a few relationships have a little bit of benign neglect. It may mean you need to separate yourself from some people. And that may even be your family members in a certain sense. Now, just to be clear, before you send me hate mail, I'm not saying cut yourself out of your family or to not be in contact with people. But what I am saying is you need to be mindful of the influence those people have in your life. You need to curate the environment deliberately. And you need to make sure that if you've got one negative family member, you need to have at least 3 to 5 more positive people that you hang out with regularly and routinely to overcome that negativity. It's really important. Yeah, in my own life, I've had people who are the loveliest people in the world, really nice, and I care for them, I love them, but they're not a great influence on my goals. They're not a great influence on my visions for my life. And so I've had to learn to love them from a distance, and I do love them and they're great. But I've also come to appreciate that if I want to achieve the things that are important to me, I need to make sure I'm hanging out with the right people who are going to support me, the right people who are going to encourage me, the right people who are going to motivate me, the right people who will help me if I need a hand. And I'd say the same thing for you. So choosing that environment is absolutely critical. All right, so number 5 is constant learning, constant improvement. One of our core values at Savvy Dentist is constant learning, always improving, right? And so I really believe that you are never finished as a human being. The job is never done. There's always room for growth. There's always untapped potential, because that's the nature of being human. None of us are ever fully formed pieces of art, right? We've got self-improvement we can work on every single day. And so one of the things around that is to understand, where do I want to learn? Where do I want to get better? The problem that many people encounter is they want to learn everything all at once. And some years ago, a long, long time ago, I came across Gordon Christensen. Many of you would know Gordon, of course. He's well known in dental circles. And he said something to me as a young dentist that really struck with me, and I've taken that throughout my life. And what he shared during that particular conversation was that as a young dentist, he decided to try and master one discipline each year. So for a whole year, he'd focus on endo. The next year, he might focus on pros. The year after that, he might focus on something else, right? And the key to all of that is to understand that you need to develop mastery in different areas. And mastery comes by deep study, by deep focus, and not kind of trying to go too shallow, too broadly. Developing those skills takes time, it takes patience, and it takes application. So I'd really encourage you to not just read things or to listen to a podcast like this, but to go out and apply them, to take notes from those podcasts or those books, and then to say, this is how this looks in my life. This is how I'm going to use this. This is how I'm going to integrate it into my day-to-day activities. And so learning is one thing, applying it is another. Because one of the things that we know, one of the biggest traps for most practice owners is that they'll sit there with their arms folded and they'll say, yeah, Jesse, I know that. And I'll respond by saying, okay, you might know it, but are you doing it? And if you're doing it, could you be doing it better? Because to know and to not do is to not really know at all. And so I really want to encourage you to continue to learn, but to continue to apply that. One of my mentors is a guy called Russell Brunson. He's perhaps one of the top 3 to 5 marketers in the world. And Russell has a wonderful expression that is that business owners need less new stuff, but more reminding to do the stuff that they should be doing already. And so oftentimes about learning, yes, from time to time is about new stuff. Oftentimes it's relearning and reapplying what you should be doing. So constant learning, constant application, constant improvement is really where that's at. Now, the final one is perhaps one I could have led with, and this is about being clear on your vision. And every successful practice owner, every successful business owner, every successful sportsman, every successful artist that I've ever met has had some vision in their mind for what they wanted to create. Now, again, for me, I've always found it really easy, for some reason or another, to create images in my mind. So I'd lie in bed at night as a kid and I'd dream about the types of houses I wanted to have or whatever in this most intricate detail. And the people I know that are really successful have clarity about what they want. Because when you have clarity about what you want rather than confusion, it allows you to align your resources. It allows you to align your thinking, the people, the teams, all in the direction of that goal. Where most people come unstuck is having fuzzy goals, fuzzy visions, because when you have fuzzy visions and fuzzy goals, it's really kind of hard to get structure right, strategy right, resource allocation right. And it's really hard to find the drive and motivation to keep pushing forward if you don't really know what that looks like. So again, yes, I could have led with this, but I want to finish with it because if you're not clear about your vision, or maybe you've achieved your goals early, and we've had lots of clients in Practice Max who have achieved the most fantastic goals, and they achieve them in their 30s, and they're thinking, okay, now what do I do, right? So you might be in that category too. Maybe you've achieved everything way earlier or way sooner than you thought possible. It's time to set a new goal. It's time to keep moving forward, because here's the thing, is you're either moving upwards towards your goals or you're falling into a rut. And when you fall into a rut, things fall apart. There is no such thing as homeostasis or a static horizontal line in business. You can maintain it for a little while, but slowly but surely things slip and then the decline sets in. And so it's very important to make sure that you don't get too comfortable. Comfort is a killer of success. And I would really encourage you to have clarity of your visions. Make sure that they're big enough and create a little bit of discomfort for you, enough to push you forward, enough to get you into the arena, keep you in the arena, along with the other traits that we've spoken about. So when it comes to these traits of the greats, as I said, this is not meant to be an exhaustive list. This is just really some things to get you thinking, to get you pondering, to start that reflection process and to ask yourself, where do I need to level up? How could I be a better version of me? And when I become a better version of me, what are the things I want as a result of that vision piece? Maybe it's about your relationships. Maybe it's about your health. Maybe it's about your business. Maybe it's about any element of your life. Maybe it's your wealth. Well, I don't know what it'll be for you, but I know that there'll be something in your life that if you were to examine it, you'd think, yeah, I could do better there. And whether you apply these traits to business, which is obviously what this podcast is about, or you apply them to another element of your life, they're going to resonate just as well. So if you're thinking about your fitness, you're getting into the arena and staying in the arena, having that grit, having that determination, all of those things apply just as equally to every facet of your life. And what's really interesting is that when you start applying this discipline in one area of your life, it spills into other areas of your life as well. So again, you'll start to see progress in your health and fitness. You'll start to see progress in your relationships. You'll start to see progress in your wealth. Wherever you apply your focus to, you'll start to see progress. But it all begins internally first. So I hope you find this episode helpful. I look forward to seeing you on the next show. Can't wait to see you then. Take care. Bye for now. Hey everyone, it's Jesse here. I hope you enjoyed that episode of the podcast. If you're looking for some more tools, some more insights, some more inspiration to help you create a practice that you love, as well as a life that you love, well, head across to savvydentist.com and check out all the goodies that we have there waiting for you right now.